All right, Joel, my name is Ash Singh. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Professor Singh. Thank you so much for talking to me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Tell me what you're working on.
My startup, BWR Innovations, is developing our patented powerhouse hydrogen generator to provide electricity to homeowners at zero carbon with no emissions or noise or maintenance. Mm-hmm. The electrical demands are expected to grow by 57% by 2050, which is a faster pace than renewable energy sources can grow in their production. So the powerhouse generator connects with the renewable energy sources using electricity that would otherwise be curtailed or wasted. Mm-hmm. That energy from the renewable sources power an electrolyzer, which splits water into hydrogen and oxygen.
Okay.
The stored hydrogen is used by a hydrogen generator to produce electricity when the sun stops shining and when the wind stops blowing. By using hydrogen for the generator, not diesel or gas, it means that you have a clean energy source without carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, or any pollutants. And we're working with Southern California Gas and Grand Farms to deploy green hydrogen generators in 2022.
Excellent. Excellent. How can I help you, Joel? Sounds interesting. What do you need help with?
Well, I've shared our idea. And quite frankly, what I'd like to have you do is shoot holes in our idea. Keep shooting until you run out of bullets. And after you shoot the idea, alt-hack. Then I'd like to come back with you and just say, we're getting traction with residential and industrial and commercial. The state of North Dakota is interested in supporting us. So after you shoot our whole idea full of holes, I'd like to talk to you about the best path forward and that right first step as we launch worldwide.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much, Joel. And thank you for sharing. And for everyone that's joining today, you can kind of see the breadth of the different type of startups that we get an opportunity to connect with. So there's obviously some great, not just learning from a startup and entrepreneurial perspective, but great intellectual stimulation. So Joel, part of these sessions is about everyone in the crowd, including myself, to give you feedback in terms of what we are thinking so that we can level you up. Okay?
Yes.
And so there are some questions in the chat that will come your way, and feel free to jump in and answer them. There are questions around, how it works and the patented and all that fun stuff. And I'm sure you have an answer on that. But more importantly, I'll tell you where my mind was, Joel, right? Because I want to kind of paint the overall picture first, right? When I was growing up, I still feel I'm growing up. I'm not that old, but when I was younger, Joel, I used to go to the car shows, and all the big car companies were talking about hydrogen fuel as the next thing. Okay, Toyota was really big on it, but for some reason, it's kind of all fallen to the wayside. Okay. And so as you were pitching, I wanted to kind of understand why it didn't work for cars, but why it should and definitely will work for the, the microgrid, right? Working for something like your home, okay? Right? And I feel like you got the tail of that when you said when wind stops and light stops, right? And we've already seen that happen where, most people don't know this, but solar and wind is not applicable for probably half of the United States. Is that fair to say? Right? You probably know the data, but I kind of wanted to understand that first, right? Because I think most of us will probably understand what hydrogen fuel cell is, like the technology, right? Right. But I kind of wanted to know, why it failed for cars and why it's perfect for homes, and how the technology has evolved over the last, 20 years, 25, 30 years, and how you are the best person on the planet to commercialize it. Because I wanted to know a little bit more about Joel. I'm like, who is this guy? I mean, he was really nice. You're dressed nicely. You got your jacket on and all this other stuff. I'm just like, for my sessions today, I'm actually just wearing this is a fake shirt, by the way. But my producer said, Ash, you got to start dressing up for your elevator pitches. So they give me props to wear. So the point is you're ready to rock and roll. But I wanted to know this, Joel. Can you shed some light on these, your background, but more importantly, first off, the story about hydrogen?
Well, thank you, thank you. And my story very quickly is I'm a bachelor's, master's, PhD in electrical engineering. So I always introduce myself as having that amazing math skill, but no people skills.
Okay.
So this,
you're a perfect hacker for this product. You're the Steve Wozniak. You're the Steve Wozniak for hydrogen fuel cell. Okay.
But to your point, and it's an excellent question. Why was cars being advertised before and not? It's really because of the inflection point of the economics. It was never about would hydrogen work or not. Hydrogen is very efficient and it's very available. But if you look at two things, the economies of scale that are now being produced with hydrogen fuel cells and that hydrogen economy, whether it's the fuel cells or the compressors, the electrolyzers, new plants, new technologies, new means of mass production is driving the cost down. In fact, hydrogen fuel cells is kind of in that same inflection point that photovoltaic cells were in about 2010, where we're going to really look at about a 90% reduction in cost. So it's more efficient. It is an alternative to a battery electric vehicle, the fuel cell electric vehicle. But with respect to the hydrogen microgrid generator, there are some now places where the home cannot use diesel, cannot use gas generators because of regulatory emissions.
Sure.
And the speed of how our system works, where if the grid were to fail and our system is installed, that we start supplying power to your house in 4 to 10 milliseconds, as opposed to 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 2 minutes, which is a long enough period of time where all of your computers have shut down.
Sure.
We're a seamless operation that, with the economies of scale driving costs down, and with this integration in my background in telemetry and integration systems, BWR is really the perfect partner. We're working with the right companies. We have got the patents and patents pending, and it's an exciting time.
Yes. And Joel, my question then comes down to from a consumer standpoint, right? If I wanted to install and get off the grid, right, or create my own avenue, right, I'm thinking about these solar panels on my roof, right?
Yes.
Or if I have a fuel generator, diesel generator, a wind, right? You might have a wind component. Tell me a little bit about just top level, right? You know, because usually there's a capital expenditure. You have to pay for an installation and then reap the rewards. Is your generator, tell me a little bit about the costing around it, right? Like versus, you know, installing solar panels on your roof or wind. And we know that if half the half the residents of the United States can't even have it, right? Even if hydrogen is a little bit more expensive, at least it's an option, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But can you give me some unit economics just so I have a sense of what this is going to cost?
Right now, the powerhouse hydrogen microgrid generator is more expensive than a diesel, but is it cost comparable to, say, a Tesla Powerwall in its installation?
Yeah.
So that we're in cost parity in around with a Tesla Powerwall, but with better performance. As far as those houses that can't use solar, then we're the perfect backup generator, because in North Dakota, as I'm sure as in Canada, there's quite a few houses that have a diesel or a gas generator in the backyard, just in case the power goes out.
Yeah.
So we can replace that diesel and gas with a bottled hydrogen system that the local gas company supplies tanks of hydrogen, just like they bring the Blue Rhino tank for my gas grill.
Got it. And this is not like, you know, when I think about these generators, I obviously think about some of the places in North America, but I see even a better use case in places like India and China, you know, where you have these they're very loud generators. So there's like a noise pollution, there's a smell, you know what I mean? All of these components, right? So you've thought, like, obviously I'm assuming your process doesn't have the same noise pollution and, you know, all of that component, right? So
no, it is near silent. And to your point, and it's an excellent point, the US Commercial Service has introduced BWR Innovations as part of their economic disaster resiliency program, where American companies are being introduced to foreign companies and foreign governments as unique solutions for resiliency or disasters. So we've
Yeah.
talked to people from Italy, we've talked to people from Philippines, we have a phone call with Brazil coming up. So there's a lot of international pull, which comes back to my point with you, kind sir. Where do we go first?
Yes, where do we go first? Excellent. All right. Joel, may I pitch your idea back to you?
Please.
Is that okay?
Please.
All right. What we're going to do, lots of different elements here. Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about your background because I think that's important. I think that I'm going to talk a little bit about the story about cars, right? And how, right? I'm going to try to bake that in because I think that's important. Okay. And how this is going to be the cost, the power wall. Okay, I got it. All right. This is your chance to be anyone you want, Joel. You can be like, you introduce yourself and I will pitch, right, for BWR Innovations. So over to you, sir. Go ahead.
And sir, I'm Joel Jorgenson. I'm CEO of a company with a lot of my workers remote working from home. I need a solution with 100% electrical resiliency so I don't lose the critical people at critical times.
All right, Joel, thank you very much. And I think it's serendipitous that we've met today. My name is Singh, and I am part of the BWR Innovations team. As you might know, everyone is rethinking how we power our homes, how we power our cars. We have all this electrification, solar, wind, everything coming together. But one thing that we have stopped and not realized is that, for instance, in the United States, 50% of the people in the United States don't have enough sun and don't have enough wind for them to power. And so they're left to go back to diesel and gas, the smelly, expensive, old technology. And so what we did at BWR Innovations, there has been years of development. Companies like Toyota have spent billions of dollars in hydrogen fuel cell generation technology. And a lot of that didn't work for the car, but we have discovered that it's actually a perfect solution for people's homes. And so we've created our own microgrid generator that leverages this technology. It is clean. It doesn't make the same noise. It doesn't have the smell. And the cost of it is similar to a Tesla Powerwall. Okay. And so we are looking at, that 50% of people in the United States, we're thinking about bigger markets, right? People that don't have rooftops, people that are in China and India. And we believe that this technology is ripe for the taking. We believe that the economies of scale are now there, right? And with myself and my team, we have a group of PhDs and amazing hackers that have been doing this for several years. We believe the time is now right for us to take this to the next level and offer that additional solution. I'd love to talk to you more about how we can make this work and have a successful rollout. Okay. We're working with the California government and several other institutions in terms of disaster relief, and would love to chat to you more about how we can make this the next $1 billion concept. Thank you.
Amazing.
All right. So Joel, I tried to weave these components together for you. I brought in your background. I wanted to bring in, and a couple of things. All right. Hopefully in my pitch, sometimes when you give a pitch, it's always good to kind of pique a bit of curiosity so that they want to have another conversation. And so, I said, Toyota spent a lot of money. I'm sure it's probably at least $1 billion on hydrogen, right? Whether it's Mazda, Toyota. I know the Japanese were really big on this for a while. Yeah. Being able to repurpose a technology that was meant to work for something else, I think is a really clever idea. Does that make sense?
I like it a lot. Yeah.
And so it's like, I have a startup and, somebody spent $1 billion thinking that it would work in cars, but they had it all wrong. And because Toyota doesn't do homes and generators, right? We're going to use something like that. And we're going to leverage that $1 billion worth of investment to create a next generation company because we're just repurposing it. Right. I feel like there's a cleverness around that, and I feel like, from the eyes of the investor, it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about R&D and these guys have that piece. I just have to jump in and it's ready to go, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so getting into that mode around the market, the fact that most people can't fully leverage sun and wind, right? And mapping those components out and kind of painting that future, right? I think is really powerful, right? And so I think that, this is really exciting, right? First of all, congratulations on what you've built. And again, you will see a lot of startups that are part of the Hyper Accelerator family. We're always excited to help startups like yourself, Joel, building companies that are going to keep the air cleaner, right? Yeah. Keep noise pollution down, right? And leave the world a little bit better than how we found it. So Joel, thank you very much for your time.